All right, let's cut to the chase. We're at page 124. Um, we're at the Department of Defense chapter. But before we get into it, I want to discuss the author of it, Christopher Miller. So, Mr. Miller has quite the career. He was born in 1965. Uh, so he and was part of the United States Special Forces Council and was the acting Secretary of Defense in 2020 and 2021. And and he served on the National Counterterrorism Center. It all sounds good. It sounds good in theory, but um, let's see. Let's see what he says. He served in the military from 1983 to 2014. So notably, he left the military during the Obama administration. That is noteworthy, because as we remember, Obama actually got revenge for 9/11, and yeah, enough of that. Um, he was joined the Special Forces in 1993. Noteworthy. La 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 la. And acting Secretary of Defense. He obviously has some good credentials. But here's where things get iffy. When during his civilian career as Assistant Secretary of Defense in the National Security Council, he was appointed he was involved in designating Iran and American domestic terrorism as threats to the United States. He took the job of Mark Esper just 9 days after Trump was in office. So Trump had a guy for defense, and then he fired him 9 days after and put this guy in charge. Oh, Lord. And he was involved with the drawback of troops in Afghanistan. While Trump was in office, he was involved in drawing back the troops. Okay, there's some quotes here. There's inconsistency with how Miller conducted himself in Afghanistan. Major inconsistencies because, on one hand, he said, "We failed to see through it to the end, and I regret pulling out all these troops." But he also said, "Now it's time to come home." Which makes me think that pulling out of Afghanistan was just to make Biden look bad once he took office, because once Biden took office, he inherited those deals Trump made in Afghanistan to stop the, quote, forever war, which it was. It was a really long 20-year occupation. And it was real. So real, in fact, that we were taking in a lot of Afghanistan refugees post-war. And I know this because the neighborhood was a military neighborhood that I was in, and all of a sudden there were just a lot of Arab people all of a sudden, and it was this transfer. This happened also with the Slavic people, with Ukraine and Russia, because there was an influx of Russian immigrants when we started that conflict. So, like, when we get into wars, we do inherit them people. We do inherit them people when we get into wars. Like, and I want this is noteworthy because, like, they always say, like, we're the problem. They always say Mexicans are the problem, that Venezuelans are the problem because we come from the southern border, when these motherfuckers be getting into wars overseas and they bringing in hella people, like, whether they be white or brown. They just be bringing in hella people, but telling the people that are from this fucking land that we're the problem. So this is noteworthy shit. This is why I'm mentioning it before we even get into the chapter he wrote. Oh boy, are we gonna get into the chapter he wrote. So yeah, he was very flip-floppy in Afghanistan with pulling back forces before the presidency ended. But he was alleged to have interrupted the presidential transition of Biden, saying that he had a mutually agreed upon holiday pause with the Biden transition when no such agreement was made. So he was stalling. What was he stalling for? We don't know. What was he stalling for? We don't know. So there's that. And the cream of the crop, the reason why it is absolutely fucking ironic that he is writing the chapter on defense and wars and all that shit, is because he was the reason why the National Guard was not called upon on January 6th right away. Let's read into this. On January 3rd, 3 days before January 6th, they released an open letter expressed concerns for the potential military coup to overturn the election results. The letter warned public officials and Miller by name that they would face grave consequences if they violated the Constitution. That same day, Trump had a convention in the acting Defense Secretary Miller, which Miller testified to the House committee that he told the president that he paced for unarmed personnel to reinforce local law enforcement. He testified that Trump responded to fill and do whatever is necessary to protect the demonstrators. He was told to do whatever is necessary to protect the demonstrators that were executing their constitutionally protected rights. Mind you, this is their constitutionally protected rights to protest, which is the thing they're always after. I know Missouri and Minnesota just passed laws that you have to file a permit 30 days before you protest, which is unconstitutional. But this motherfucker used the excuse that the demonstrators needed to be protected constitutionally because that was their constitutional rights. And the day before, on January 5th, Miller issued orders which prohibited deploying of DC Guard members with weapons, helmets, and body armor, or riot agents without his personal approval. Okay, remember in the last chapter how Mr. Vaught said that people be acting like czars of their own department? This fool be acting like a czar of his own department. He's like, oh, no, you can't pull out the riot police without me personally saying it's okay to do so. Excuse me. So then, on the same day, on January 5th, Ryan McCarthy issued a memo placing limits on the District of Columbia's National Guard. General William Walker, commanding national of the DC National Guard, later explained, all military commanders normally have immediate response authority to protect public property, life, and in any cases, federal functions, federal property, and life. But in this instance, I did not have that authority. He did not have that authority because Mr. Miller took it away. January 6th did not happen overnight. It was planned. Miller's actions on January 6 faced scrutiny after rioters breached the Capitol Police perimeter. He waited more than 3 hours. He waited 3 hours before authorizing deployment of the National Guard. Miller did not provide that permission until 4:32 p.m. after assets from Virginia were already entered the district, and Trump had instructed rioters to go home. Trump had instructed. Miller testified that he was trying to avoid a repeat of the Kent shootings. Okay, now this is interesting because this is the wildest fucking excuse in the world. Because Miller was not fucking around during, like, he was alive during the Kent shootings, but he was not involved politically. He was a kid. So he's crying like a little bitch, being like, oh, well, I don't want to hurt civilians like back when Kent State was a thing. So this was his excuse for preemptively doing this, protecting his own white people, so to speak. You know, this would not have happened with anybody else. I swear to God. Testifying under oath, Miller affirmed that Trump told him that Mayor Bowser, any support he requested, Trump guessed that there would be need for 10,000 troops on January 6 to contain pro-Trump protesters. Miller also said that Trump never gave him a formal order to have 10,000 troops ready to be deployed on January 6th. I was never given any direction or order or knew of any plans of that nature, even though his ass, on January 4th, was like taking the reins and was saying, no, you can't have riot police without my permission. There was no direct order from the president, so I couldn't do anything. I'm only an unelected official. I can't do things by myself. Lord. According to Miller's testimony, he did not speak with Trump at any time during the Capitol attack. I didn't need to. I had all the authority I needed and knew what had to happen, which was nothing, because he did nothing. He did nothing until 3 hours later, okay? He watched Lord of the Rings, extended cut, and then he decided to do something about it. He rejects the notion that the Pentagon dragged their feet in protecting the Capitol, calling it a complete horseshit. It's complete horseshit that we dragged our feet. He insists that they had their game together. If you had your game together, a fucking security guard at the Capitol would have still been alive. Okay, they had 2 fucking security guards. That was it. They had 2 fucking security guards, and one of them died on January 6th. A black man, by the way. So, they were on top of their game? On top of what game? Fantasy football? Jesus Christ. It seems clear that there was an organized conspiracy with assault elements. Yeah. This is the calling the kettle black. We're not even reading the chapter. We're just going through this guy's fucking career history before we even read his fucking fantasy article that he wrote for Project 2025, because I feel like this is important information. Comment. Okay. On January 14th, 2021, Miller praised Russia's military capabilities, even with larger problems. Professionally, I'm like, they're doing pretty well. There are a lot okay, by the way, Russia's losing the war right now, so this aged like milk, okay? Him praising Russia for their military action against Ukraine aged like fucking milk. Lord. Okay. Since we now know how incompetent he is. He may have served our military when he was young. He may have been competent then, but post 2014, this fool is fucking dense, incompetent, and a joke. Like, I'm saying, he's a fucking joke. This guy is a fucking joke. Let's see what this clown had to write. Department of Defense by Christopher Miller. The Constitution requires that the federal government provide for the common defense. Raise support for armies and provide and maintain the Navy. Lord. The Department of Defense is the largest part of our federal government. Then why didn't do anything on January 6th? Oh yeah, because you said you can't do that without me having my cup of coffee first. Okay. The Department of Defense has a deeply troubled transition. Historically, the military has been one of America's most trusted institutions, but in years has sustained misuse and even been with two-tiered culture accountability. Oh my God. Our disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, which he was responsible for. He may have been against it, but he still did it. Our disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan and impossibly muddled China strategy and the growing involvement of senior military officers in the political area and deep confusion about the purpose of our military and clear signals of a disturbing decay of makers and terrorists decline of will. Additionally, more than 100,000 Americans die annually, in large measure because of illicit narcotics flows. More than 4 times as many people we lost to our 20-year war against Al-Qaeda, which Bush started. Mind you, he was in the military still then, so like there's some personal here. Let's skip to their priorities. They got 4 pillars, 4 priorities. I'm realizing that 4 is their magic number. Priority number 1, reestablish culture of command accountability, non-politicalization, and warfighting focus. That's gonna come in play later. Transform our armed forces for maximum effectiveness in the area of great power competition. So this fool wants to bring back the Cold War because he wants to be in competition with people. Got it. Provide necessary support for Department of Homeland Security for border protection operations. Border protection is a national security issue that requires sustained attention and effort by all elements of the executive branch. Let me get you straight. For someone who says states' rights are important in this document, you want the federal government more in charge of Texas's, California's, and New Mexico's problem, rather than giving... Oh my God. So never mind that Canadian immigrants come to our country and fucking threaten our politicians and throw hammers at Nancy Pelosi's husband's face and do all sorts of awful shit. It's the fucking Mexicans' problem that it's our fault. It's our fault. Because you're still mad about the Mexican-American War from the fucking 1900s. And you just want to flaunt that you stole all this land from native people. All right. And every time y'all go to war with another country, you take in more refugees, people that have betrayed their country. Not just immigrants, people that have literally betrayed their countries coming into our country. I mean, depending on the context, that might be good. But depending on the context, that might be very bad. Because guess what? What's going to stop those citizens from betraying our country? Nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. Okay, let's continue. And priority number 4, demand financial transparency and accountability. All right, there is already enough financial transparency because I know a motherfucker that works for, who works accounting for the budget of the military. They can't move a fucking penny without answering to their accountants. They can't move a fucking penny without answering to their accountants and their accountants' accountants. So, like, by transparency, what do they mean? Are they gonna, who watches the Watchmen? Who watches the accountants? Like, are you, and having our budget on blast isn't really a smart national security idea, because guess what? Other nations could use that information. Y'all are dumb as fuck. This chapter offers recommendations. Let's see what they are. Beijing presents a challenge to American interests across its domains of national power, with the military threat that it possesses especially acute to significant. China is undertaking a historic military buildup that includes an increasing capability of power. Oh boy. The most immediate threat to Beijing's political process, however, is Taiwan and other U.S. allies along its first island chain on the Western Pacific. If China could subordinate Taiwan, allies like the Philippines, South Korea, and Japan, it would break apart any balancing coalition designed to prevent Beijing's takeover of Asia. Accordingly, the United States must ensure that China does not succeed. So here we go. So this whole section, like the next few paragraphs, is about how scary China is. It gets to the point where he's like, prioritize denial defense against China. U.S. defense planning should go focus on China, and in particular, an effective denial defense of Taiwan. Require all U.S. defense efforts and employment to posture and focus ability of American forces to prevail, pacing scenario to deny China its claimed ownership of Taiwan, prioritize United States conventional force planning to construct to defeat Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Lord. Okay. These motherfuckers want to revitalize the military by going to full-blown fucking war with China. Like, full-blown fucking war. Full-blown fucking war. And mind you, when we go to war with China, we're going to be inheriting some of their citizens. Like, we already have history with Chinese immigrants, because when the rise of communism happened, people were fleeing because people were dying. And those citizens still live here. And I think America takes its own minorities for granted because, like, a full-blown war with China, what's that going to do to Chinese Americans? The Chinese Americans that built your railroads, that, give you food. They don't think about that. They don't care about any of that. They never have. So, like, instead of protecting our own country and our own people, they want to go out and pump soldiers out in China to cause some mayhem, to throw ourselves in another 20-year fucking war. To prove what? That we're the strongest? That we're competitive? It is a full-blown cockfight. Let's continue. Increased allied conventional defense burden sharing. Oh boy. make burden sharing a central part of U.S. defense strategy, with the United States not just helping allies to step up, but strongly encouraging them to do so. Support greater spending and collaboration by Taiwan and allies in the Asia Pacific, like Japan, Australia, and defense model. Okay, how is this document not a national security threat? Like, because even if it goes through, the world knows what you're going to do now. The world fucking knows what you're going to do. This isn't like a secret corpse. Like, I mean, to give some other presidents credit, at least their operations were secret until the Freedom of Information Act let it out. These motherfuckers are just spilling it out. They're just spilling the beans like, oh, we should hit this, this, and this, and this, and this. And we should make these, and these nations do the work for us. Y'all, what? Transform NATO so that U.S. allies are capable of fielding for a great majority of conventional forces to deter Russia while relying on... Oh, Lord. Now you're focusing on deterring Russia because your comments about Russia doing such a good job just didn't go so well, did it? Sustain support for Israel. Like, yeah, okay. Enable South Korea to take the lead in conventional defense against North Korea, which South Korea has been doing. Like, mind you, these nations would be doing these things. Israel and South Korea would be doing what they normally do with or without American support. They would just be doing this. Either way. But here's the real kick. The return of the Cold War. Implement nuclear modernization and expansion. There it is. Implement nuclear modernization and expansion. There it is. They want to start the arms race again. Not just with Russia, but with China, because if it worked so well in the 80s. What? Lord. I can't even with this chapter. Like, this guy's bullshit. I'm calling it. Alright. I had to take a break. I had to come outside. I had to touch grass. I had to do some gardening. I had to, like, digest, like, the sheer audacity. America has a very long history of, you know, poking into countries, stirring up rebels, causing revolutions where they really shouldn't, and then, you know, making those countries villains, like Venezuela, like Afghanistan. You know, Afghanistan being the prime example. They created a monster they couldn't control anymore, and they, as try as they might, they still can't control it, you know? I mean, like, Venezuela is a great example. You know, there's still a regime that is in charge there that we have sanctions on. Funny enough, France is pulling the same shit with their prime minister, but I know for a fact we won't put sanctions on them because them white people fucking shake hands with each other. So, what am I trying to get at here? What Christopher Miller did was do what we did to other countries, but here. All that talk that they said of the enemies being from within, well, they caused that. They caused that on January 6th, okay? They aggravated the enemies from within, and they attacked. They attacked, and some innocent people got really fucking hurt. Some of them lost their fucking lives. Are you gonna let this motherfucker goat you into more war? This motherfucker who attacked our own country with the same ops and intelligence that they used in other countries? You know, like, despite what he's trying to say about turning small businesses into great vendors for war, as much as he wants to improve nuclear arms and improve our industrial military complex, which is already fucking grand enough as it is. If you don't believe me, visit a fucking military base near you. Like, are you gonna let this motherfucker who betrayed his own country goat you into more war? Are you gonna let a motherfucker who fucking is going to cause more division and more pain and suffering and death, and is willing to allow that to happen here? Like, say what you want about Kent State. That happened under Nixon. Nixon knew what the fuck he was doing. Alright, I figure I'm gonna get some flack for that statement. Nixon knew what he was doing, so I'm gonna explain what I mean by that. At least Nixon knew he was a fucking supervillain and was like, yeah, we did that shit. Christopher Miller, on the other hand, in his testimony about January 6th, was saying that it was complete horseshit, his quotes, and he was playing victim. It's like, oh, I didn't want what happened at Kent State to happen here, bitch. Bitch, you can't tell me you're ready for war and play victim at the same time. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. And if you do know what you're doing, it's insidious. But you're telling me you don't know. You're telling me you're fucking ignorant just to save your own fucking hide. Like, oh, well, I didn't know it would turn out like that. You claimed you'd be set up, but you be setting up shit. You be setting us up. You know what I mean? Like, he's like playing ignorance. Like, oh, well, I didn't know that would happen. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, I didn't want it to be like that. But then he's turning around being like, well, I think I should be in charge. And I think this should be like this. And this should be like that. And we should go to full-blown fucking war with so-and-so. And, you know, it is baffling. Baffling. That's what I mean by when I say that these bitches don't know what they're doing. Because if they do know what they're doing, they're lying to us about being stupid. These motherfuckers are trying to go a president who really doesn't care for this agenda into shit that he may or may not do, because it's like, I just need y'all to think. From pages this to 165, I'm completely done with, because I cannot take Christopher Miller fucking seriously. I cannot take him fucking seriously when he says he wants to strengthen our fucking country, because he made it weak. He made it fucking weak. He weakened it that day on January 6th with his incompetence. And he's writing this whole ass chapter because he has experience? Like, like just because someone's a veteran doesn't mean they don't get stupider when they get older, okay? The fucking man who negotiated pulling out of Afghanistan and hurting a whole bunch of our fucking soldiers. And this motherfucker wants to goat you into more war, even though he was responsible for surrendering? He's a coward. And I can't stand that. I can't stand for that, and you shouldn't stand for that either. Like, we're moving on to the next chapter after this video because I'm baffled. I'm bamboozled, and he's trying to bamboozle and cheat you. This whole Department of Defense chapter is trying to bamboozle and cheat you, and it's going to cost American people more money that we're already spending on the military-industrial complex. We're already, like, producing twice as many arms. We're already trying to replenish our stockpile of ammunition. Hell, we got guns in the streets of our country. They don't give a fuck about that. They don't give a fuck about that. We have Americans killing Americans every fucking day. He don't give a fuck about that. He wants more. He wants to bring that to the world. Are you gonna let that happen? I fucking doubt it. Go vote. Fucking make your voices heard. Like, we're gonna be moving on to the next chapter because this shit's baffling. And it should baffle you too. I think I've said enough here.